Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Matt. I'm the head of tech support here at Altaro. And today's webinar, we're going to be discussing the solution we have for MSPs to get their VM backups from their customers over to Altaro's solution in the cloud. So essentially, first of all, I have to apologize. I'm a bit under the weather, so please, I do apologize if I do sneeze or break out midway through the voice here. But a bit of housekeeping. So basically, you can go ahead and ask any questions you like throughout the webinar. Please use the questions section of GoToWebinar, and I'll do my best to get to them throughout the session. But if not, we do have a Q&A session at the end allocated, so we'll get to them at the end if I don't manage to do them throughout the webinar itself. So today we're going to be talking about a bit of information about Altaro itself. If you're not familiar with Altaro, I'll give you some information about where we are, where we came from, and then we'll be talking specifically about our backup solution for MSPs. I will be giving you a demo of what it looks like as a finished product and what it's going to look like after you have onboarded your customers. And after that, I'll be walking you through literally a step-by-step to getting your first customer on board and getting everything up and running. And I'll go through a few tips and tricks of some nice how-tos within the TMC as well. And lastly, I'll give you some information on how to sign up for the MSP product here at Altaro. So just as a quick background here, if you're not familiar, Altaro has been around for a while. We were founded back in 2009. We started up with a product which is a backup product for home use and PC use, and then moved into the Hyper-V space and then eventually into the VMware space as well. Since then, we've grown tremendously, as you can see here, particularly in the Hyper-V and VMware space. And in fact, that is now our 100% focus of the company. We are targeted towards small and mid-market businesses, usually under 1,000 employees, and we have now over 40,000 customers across the globe. We are very much focused on a partner market, so we do as much as possible here to empower our partners and give our partners the tools to branch out, especially our MSPs. So let's talk about Altaro VM Backup for MSPs. Essentially, you guys might already be familiar with our VM Backup product, and what we've done now is taken that and built a multi-tenant solution in the cloud where you can leverage that product for specifically for MSP partners who are taking care of their customers' backups. And we've done that by making a really easy-to-use cloud management console, which is absolutely fantastic paired up with the actual VM Backup product. So VM Backup for MSPs essentially is a product which is built for a subscription plan where your customers can pay per VM per month for their backups of the virtual machines. Essentially, it makes everything really, really simple, and the onboarding is a breeze. What's really awesome about it is that you do not have a high commitment, so there's no annual commitment or no annual contract or anything like that. It has a minimum number of VMs of just 10, so you can really get started easily by onboarding your customers onto it. Now, of course, the subscription will have all of the features of VM Backup. If you're familiar with our pricing plans already, it will have the full features of the Unlimited Plus edition. So literally for that low fee per month per VM, you'll be getting all of the features of our main product along with that. And of course, all of this is managed through our cloud management console, which is multi-tenant and has loads of advantages in there as well. I'll be showing you and walking you through all of this in the next stages. So just a bit about the cloud management console here. As I said, it is designed for multi-tenancy. So essentially, you as an MSP can manage all of your customer backups from one console, and you can have multiple people logging into that console at the same time. There's also 2 levels of login. So you as the MSP can log in and see all of your customers, and the customer themselves also can log in and see their own particular space. Of course, without seeing anybody else's data. That said, the MSP does not have access to any of the data itself. They can, of course, manage their customers and run restores, but the data itself is not stored in the cloud. It is entirely belonging to the customers. Of course, this is for privacy purposes. The Cloud Management Console itself gives you real-time status updates and alerts, so it's a good place to go to have a dashboard, give you a good idea of what's going on with your customer backups. It's a nice, quick, at-a-glance view of any backups that might have failed, or any backups that succeeded, or even those that were skipped. And what's great about it also is that you can actually deploy settings and policies for your different customers through templates. So you can actually preset all the configuration and settings that you want and onboard a customer really easily just with a few clicks. The awesome benefit of the CMC is also that you can access it from anywhere through a web browser. So there's no need for VPN connections or for you to be on site to actually access the backup console. And of course, you can do both. You can manage both the configuration and also you can do backups and restores directly from that cloud management console. We also have a section in there for billing and reporting, which means that you can actually bring out invoices to print out for your customers and send out the billing on a monthly basis. Again, I'm going to be demoing all of these features for you just in a second here. So again, if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please go ahead and pop them into the questions section of GoToWebinar itself, and I'll do my best to get to them as we go along. So first off, I'm going to start with a demo of the finished product. So this is essentially what you're going to see after you've onboarded your customers here and actually have some data flowing through the cloud management console. So here's my test setup. Essentially, what I have is a dashboard and a menu on the left-hand side over here, where you can use which you can use to navigate through the different sections of the cloud management console. So this is a setup which has been pre-configured and has been being used for the past few months. As you can see here, there's actually data populated, and you can see the operation history, you can see active ongoing tasks, and you can even see a health status of all your customers. So let's go through this in a bit more detail. So this is the dashboard. This is the first thing you're going to see once you log into the Cloud Management Console, which again can be done without a VPN or anything like that. You can literally log into this from a browser using your credentials that you've signed up with, and you'll have access to this on a multi-tenant basis. So you and or other people can log into this level and also down in a customer level. So the dashboard here is going to give you some really good at-a-glance information, particularly the health status over here. As you can see, I have a number of customers over here, just some test customers. These are, of course, test setups, so there's quite a bit of data flowing through in here, and also quite a few areas for testing here as well. So normally what you're going to be seeing here is hopefully going to be more on a green basis than a red basis. But this is good for you to actually see, to know if there's actually something wrong. This is what you're going to be seeing in this case. So essentially, each of your customers will have 3 health bars here. These are entirely drill down menus, so you can click on any point and that'll expand and drill down into more information about what has actually succeeded and failed. So the 3 health bars here are one for your backups, one for your offsite copies, and one for your verification tasks. And again, those are shown one for each of your customers. So essentially what you can see here is a quick glance at what's going on with each of your customers. If everything is great, then you're going to see everything green. If you have some errors, then you're going to see some red in there, and you can actually have a look and drill down into what's actually going wrong. So let's just take an example here on my second customer. I can actually click on the backup health bar, which has some failures, and that will drill down for me and tell me the 2 different hosts which that customer has, and I can see one of them is actually disconnected, and that's why it's showing with a red error message on there. So again, that is all drill down menus for each of your customers, and you can drill down to that, and you can even click on individual hosts as well to bring up a list of the VMs and which is being backed up, and it'll give you even more details there on which backups were successful and not. So that's the health status. Really nice and easy. At a glance, you know exactly what's going on your customers. If there's any failures on there, just click, drill down, find the error messages, and you can actually troubleshoot from there as well. Of course, we have our support team built into this system as well. So you have a quick live chat menu over here that you can have a look at, and our team is obviously going to be there on a daily basis, of course, helping you out if you have any trouble. Okay, so the activity screen just above the health status is going to give you your active operations. So at the moment, I can see there aren't actually any current backup jobs running, but I can see the next ones which are going to be running in the queue over here. So it'll show you upcoming and active tasks in the activity screen. The operation history is similar to what you're used to in the product itself, and you can see these are basically operations which have completed, whether they were successful or not. In fact, you can see both successes and failures here in the history tasks. And again, these are all clickable, so you can drill down and see what the error was, and once you do that, you can actually contact our support team directly from here as well. Last thing here on the dashboard is the subscription billing overview, and this is essentially going to give you an at-a-glance look at how many virtual machines have been backed up over the past few months. Okay, so that's the dashboard in a nutshell. What I'm going to have a look at now is just some other screens to walk you through what you're going to expect to see, and after this we'll go through the actual process of getting this configured and set up for your customers. So the next screen here, as you can see, is the VM Backup installations. So for each of my customers, which by the way, you can add as many customers here as you like, and you can define whether or not you're going to give them portal access or whether or not they're going to be on a subscription basis or not. Of course, the subscription basis is going to be billed through you. So as the MSP, you will be able to purchase number of VMs and pay for the number of VMs which are backed up for each month, and then pass on that cost to your customers at the end of the day. So I can see a full list of my customers here. I can drill down and have a look inside of each of my customers, and I can see the hosts that they have being backed up and also the contacts that I have for that particular customer. The Altaro VM Backup installation screen gives me a list of actual Altaro installations. So there can be multiple hosts per installation here, and I can then again drill down into that to see how many installations are underneath each. How many hosts are underneath each installation. And what's nice is we give a nice tree view here on the left-hand side. You can expand each of your customers, each of your installations, and each of your hosts. They are split by Hyper-V and VMware for convenience, and you can take a look, and all of that can be managed from a nice and simple tree view. So going back to the actual Altaro VM Backup installations, you can see if I actually pick one of my customers, for example here, the TSUB4, if I click on the installation, I can actually drill down and have a look at the configuration of that particular installation. So I can see the backup locations, the offsite locations, and I can configure the encryption key from there. I can also switch to my virtual machines view here to take a look at the virtual machines which are being backed up. So again, that whole installation from each of my customers is entirely configurable from the Cloud Management Console, which is multi-tenant. So a really nice and easy configuration. And what's going to make it even better and even easier is settings templates, which I can show you from here. So settings templates are literally exactly what they say. I mean, there's not much hidden here, but effectively you can configure your retention policies, your backup schedules, and any advanced settings that you want to configure within the application. And you can preset those into a template. And once you do that, of course, you can deploy that template out to any number of your customers and any number of those VMs through the Assign Templates menu just below it. So what this is empowering me to do is actually preset a configuration for the types of customers which I have, or even for a simple individual customer, for example. And that will allow me to deploy the settings out to that customer without actually having to launch up the console at their end. Makes configuration a breeze, and literally onboarding a new installation or a new customer is just going to take a few minutes. Actually, assigning the templates is really easy as well. So I can just go down to a particular customer I want, tick the virtual machines, or just select all virtual machines, and essentially I can just assign that template out, which I have pre-configured here. That will push the template settings out to all of the virtual machines which I've selected, and those settings will override anything that was previously configured on that particular customer. We also have some great alerting features, and as well, we do have integration with LabTech as well, so with ConnectWise. So alerting is obviously a big part of this. You as the MSP need to know when something goes wrong and when something's going right, of course. So it gives you a great way of managing any alerts that are coming out of the application. Now, again, all of this is done on the cloud, so we can send out notifications to particular email addresses that you want. And as you can see, it's really granular. You can have for each type of operation, you have alerts for successful, fails, warnings, or even skipped operations. So even if a backup was meant to run yesterday and it didn't, you can also run an alert in that scenario as well. We also have option for alarms here. You can see that you have the option to trigger an alarm if there's an installation which is disconnected, and also you have if a backup location is running out of space, then we can set off an alarm here as well. Again, really nice management options here without having to look at your particular customer's installation itself. Everything can be done from the CMC and really easily. So you're seeing the connector here for LabTech. So anything can actually be, we can actually tie into your current installation of LabTech if you are using it. That's now known as ConnectWise Automate. Essentially, if you are using that as a platform for your alerting and your management of your MSP operations, we can link into that and we can send alerts through LabTech, which means you can create new tickets for failed backups, for example, automatically within LabTech, which can then get assigned out to your technicians for investigation. Really nice and easy integration there. So if you're already using ConnectWise, it's a nice, easy way for you to tie in Altaro's backup product into that as well. Of course, we do have the regular options for alerting, so such as a daily summary for failed backups, and you can also see the previous history of emails that have been sent out. So actually, looking at the actual operations here, you can see that I can trigger off backups and restores from the Cloud Management Console as well. And as you can see in the Take Backup screen, I get some really good information here of each one of my virtual machines. And I can actually filter that out by customer, or by installation, or by a particular host. So in my case, if you can see the number of virtual machines here, I can list all the virtual machines. I can see with a quick badge here how long ago the last backup was taken of that particular virtual machine. I can see the last operation status, and I can also see some further information of whether or not they have backup schedules in place and whether or not they have muted alerts on the side over here. Again, all of this is filtered, so if I want to search for a particular virtual machine, I can actually filter out using a simple text query here. Finds all of the virtual machines which match that query, so it makes management at the top level really nice and easy. Same thing for the offsite copies, so as well as your local backups, you have the same options for the offsite copies here. And you also have some saved searches, which are essentially filters that you've saved for particular search queries. So we do also have the option to run restores from the backup console as well. Of course, this will run the restore at the customer's end, not to your particular installation. So this restore option will go ahead and trigger restore at the customer side, and you can do that to the same host or to a different host, just as you can do with the product itself. Of course, we also have the option for some reporting. This is similar to what you're used to in the product itself. Again, you can generate the report, bring out a list of operations that are successful and failed. So lastly, we have the subscription billing section here. And this is essentially targeted towards MSP products only. So essentially, you're going to have an overview of your current usage of backups. So you'll see each customer, how many backups they've had this month, how many backups they've had last month, and a quick number of total virtual machines in the graph at the top over here. There's a nice quick glance over here to see all of your customers which have the subscription in place and which you are being billed for at the end of the month. So it's a good way of monitoring how many virtual machines are being backed up on a regular basis, which, by the way, we charge on a monthly basis. So essentially, even if you have a virtual machine linked up with the Altaro console using the subscription. If it's not backed up in a particular month, then that's not going to be charged to your account. So if the virtual machine is backed up at least once during that month, it is going to be billed at the end of the month. If not, then it won't. We can drill down a bit more here with using the usage details tab, and that'll give you a month by month for each one of your customers. The subscription section below that will give you the option to actually activate your subscription and also put in your payment details over there. You also have the option to go and generate invoices for your customers. Now, these invoices are targeted at the MSP, so this is not something that you're going to send out to the customer, and it's not something that we or Altaro will send out to the customer at all. At the end of the day, we are billing only the MSP and not the end user customer. It's then the MSP who then bills the customer at the end of the month. Okay, and as I said before, you can create multiple accounts which have login access to the cloud management console on a multi-tenant basis. Okay, so that's a quick tour of the cloud management console here, targeted at the Altaro VM Backup for MSPs. The next thing I'm going to do here is actually take you one step back here, and we'll look at a completely clean installation of the CMC and what I need to do to populate that information and get customers on board. If we do have any questions at this point, feel free to go ahead and ask them in the questions section of GoToWebinar. I'll do my best to get through those. Okay, so I've just signed out and signed back in with a completely clean account here. So this is essentially what you're gonna see as the first time you log into the Cloud Management Console for the first time. So as you can see, we've already got a quick way for you to get started. The dashboard itself will guide you through 3 steps, which are the 3 core steps of getting started in the CMC. Of course, adding your first customer should be the first thing you do. And let's go ahead and do that now. So again, assuming here that you have decided to use this subscription basis for your customers, you can tick or untick this box for this particular customer. So I'm creating a customer here, and I'm saying, yep, I actually want to use the subscription basis billing for this customer. So all installations which I link to this customer are going to be using a subscription basis. I also have the option to add a default contact for this customer. I'm next presented with 3 options here. I have the option to link an Altaro backup installation, or I can choose to link the installation later using the screen menus on the screen. So assuming you already have the Altaro VM Backup installed at the customer, you choose the first option. If you don't have an installation yet, then you choose the second. And if you don't currently and do not want to install immediately, you choose the third. In my case, I do have an Altaro backup installation here as a test, which I can see is not linked. So I'm going to select the first option here to link an installation. So it's going to go ahead and create the customer, and essentially it's going to give me an access key here, which I can use within the product, which I can then use to link that backup installation to the CMC. So going back to the actual Altaro installation here, this could completely be a clean installation, or it could be an installation that's already been up and running for one of your customers. It doesn't really make a difference. You can see a CMC icon at the top right-hand side here. Clicking that, I can click Next, and I can choose the option to register using an access key. I can paste that access key in, which was given to me in the CMC, click Next again, and it should automatically detect the customer name, which I just gave it. At that point, just click Register, and it'll tie this particular installation of Altaro VM Backup to my CMC account. Okay, so I can click Close, and I can minimize that installation. So once I click Close here, I have my first customer added. And of course, it's going to automatically start detecting any of the previous operations that have been done on that customer. If there haven't been any backups or any operations before, these are going to be a blank reports, of course, until you start actually taking any backups. So again, if I go to the customer section here, I can see my first customer has been added. If I click and drill down into that, I can see I have my first installation below that, and I can also add contacts and start to configure this particular customer. So clicking Manage on that, I can see that I can go ahead and start to configure that installation directly from the Cloud Management Console without actually launching the local console. So the onboarding process is literally going to be run the installation on the customer's end, link it back to CMC, and then from there onwards, you can configure everything from the web console. So I can add my backup locations if they aren't already configured. Doing that is really easy. I can choose local drive or network path, and of course, all of this information will be used depending on the particular customer and the particular drives they have currently connected. I can configure my offsite locations, and of course the encryption key that's going to be used to encrypt the backups when we are sending data offsite. So great, at this point, obviously I have my customer connected and my installation connected to the customer, and the next step is, of course, for me to create a backup settings template. This will allow me to really push out easy templates to my customers without going in and having any trouble configuring the product at all. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new template here. I can create my schedules. Say we're going to create a weekly backup from Monday to Friday, which runs at 8 p.m. And I want to follow up with an offsite copy on a daily basis. My retention policy, I want to keep backups for 6 months and my offsite copies for 1 month. And I can choose the advanced settings as well. I can use deduplication. I can choose whether or not to encrypt my backups and also to include ISO files and use CBT and also application consistency. So I can change these settings and that will be applied to all my test templates. So I'll click Save. It'll give me a quick briefing of what I have just configured, and essentially I can confirm that, and it'll create my new template over here. So I have my new template. I can switch over to Assign Templates. I can see that installation, which I just linked to the Cloud Management Console, has 3 particular virtual machines. So I can select all of those in my case and assign the template which I just created. Once I do that, it's going to push the settings which I created in that template and assign those settings to each of those 3 VMs without me actually having to go to the customer's end and launch up the console and configure. So again, really nice and easy. Templates have been assigned. I know that that particular customer will have the settings that I have preset in those templates, and really a couple of clicks has gone out and done a configuration which can potentially take a lot of time otherwise. So as an MSP, it's important for us to configure a few different options we have for offsite copies. Now, offsite copies is literally a second copy of your backups. I'm sure you are all familiar with this, but it is absolutely, it's really critical for you to consider having a second copy of your backups. An offsite strategy is fundamental in a good backup plan, and if you don't have a second copy of your backups, then you're probably doing something wrong, and you should reconsider your stance at this point. So essentially, we give quite a few options here to the customers. Again, Altaro is not actually hosting any of your data or any of your backups, but we're giving you all the tools you need to actually take those second copies. Now, a popular choice with most of our MSPs is to have their own data center hosting the customer's offsite copy data. Now, for that, we obviously give you a tool called the Altaro Offsite Server. That's a tool you can install on your end as the MSP, which is connected in your data center without any VPN connections, and your customers can then leverage that offsite server to use your data center storage and send backups to your version of the offsite server. Again, this is really easy to configure. You can create an account for each one of your customers, and they can simply send a second copy of their backups over to your server. We do have the option to use deduplication across different customers if you like, However, best practice has always been to keep deduplication buckets for each customer. Of course, you would save much more space if you deduplicate data between customers, but just as a best practice, it's normally easier to separate and segregate the data of each of your customers, just for the sake of having that customer ownership of their particular data. Now, needless to say, of course, each account cannot see or cannot restore data from another account, so you don't have to worry about each of your customers being able to access any other data of the other customers. That's absolutely not going to happen so long as you use different accounts to connect to your offsite server. So again, this is really nice. Essentially, you can use this option to hold your customers' data, and of course, you can charge for that storage on your side, along with the usage of Altaro VM Backup. Okay, the second option here for your offsite copies is to use Microsoft Azure. So essentially, Azure will give you the option to create a storage account either for yourselves as the MSP or to use on the customer's actual storage account themselves. So you have two options here. Either the customer themselves can sign up to Microsoft Azure for a storage account, or you can decide to own the Azure account yourself and to create different storage accounts for each of your customers within your Microsoft account. Normally, it's the second option which our MSPs go for. So you'd have your own Microsoft account in Azure, and you'd offer you'd create an Azure storage account for each of your customers there, which will allow you to take a public key, which you give out to the customer, and they would each have their own storage underneath your Microsoft account. Now again, all of the costings on this are through Microsoft themselves. We're not charging anything ourselves for this. The customer would pay Microsoft directly, or the MSP would pay Microsoft directly for this. Everything from the Altaro side is included in the price, the monthly charge of the virtual machine per month. And obviously, this is just giving you the tools to leverage the Microsoft storage in Azure. I'll give you a quick look at how to configure that. So if I have my managed hosts here, I can go to offsite locations, add offsite location, and I can select the option for Azure here. And it's literally going to give me the option to pop in a connection string, which I get from my Azure account, which is unique to each storage account. So again, each of your customers would have their own storage account created, separate buckets, so to speak, and each of them will have their own unique connection string that you can leverage in here. Creating that would then give you an option like this, which you can then assign your virtual machines to using the backup templates. So again, offsite copy is really important. If you're not doing that, you should start to consider that immediately. Unfortunately, hardware does fail. Backups do get corrupted when disk failure happens. So it's always good to have a second redundant copy of your data. So let's have a closer look at the alerts. So you can see alerts are switched off by default. I can switch that on, and I can choose granularly for each operation here what operations I want to get notified about. Now again, I'm going to be able to set up recipients for these alerts using the accounts that I have created. So the operations are like this. So you can choose to get notified of successful backups, failed, warning, and also skip backups, and the same for offsite copies. I can also choose to get notified of restores, again, successful, failed, warnings, and also verification tasks. Now, all of these options can be configured granularly for both successful, failed, and warnings. So I can choose, for example, to not get notified of successful backups, but to get notified of failed jobs. Again, would like to mention here the option to connect with LabTech ConnectWise. Essentially, this can be a really nice and easy platform for you guys to use and as an RMM console. If you're already using ConnectWise Automate, then it's really easy for you to tie in Altaro. Just visit the App Store from ConnectWise itself, and you can go ahead and install the Altaro plugin from there, and then you can immediately see your linked ConnectWise account in this list once you do that. So aside from alerts, we do have the option to run daily summaries. So if I don't want to get immediate alerts of failed backups and I just want to get one single email for the entire day, then I can set it up from here in the summary settings. Essentially, this will give you one email a day sent to the recipient of your choice, and that'll give you a summary of all the day's backups, whether they're successful or failed, all the day's restores, all operations for the last 24 hours will be sent in a single summary email. And really nice thing here, you can also send a copy to your customers. So obviously the customer is going to receive information only about their own particular jobs, not about any other customer, while the MSP will receive a full summary of all customers in one email. Okay, so let's talk about configuring access to the CMC. So you, as the MSP, of course, have a primary account. The account which you've registered with us before actually accessing the CMC is the one that you're going to be logging in with when you sign in. However, of course, we said this is multi-tenant, so you can have multiple people from your organization at the MSP level logging into the same console. And you can do that here from the partner profile. So click on the account you have configured, click on Manage Your Partner Profile, and here you're going to be able to add and remove accounts which have access to this particular account of the CMC. So anybody you add in this list here, of course the primary account is going to be the account you signed up with. However, anyone you add into this list is going to have access to the dashboard, and this account will have access to all the other customer information underneath this account. The second level here is to give access to the particular customer for their own installation. So you can see here by default the portal access button is going to be switched off. If I enable that, I can enter the email address of the customer, and that particular email address will also be able to log in to the Cloud Management Console. However, at this point, this particular login will only be able to see information about this customer only. So the idea is that you can give your customers access to the console, and they will only see information about their own backups and their own statuses. So billing and invoicing. Essentially, we have already had a look at this already before, but I'll go through this again just to have a quick look. So the subscription and billing section here will give you an overview of your usage. So you can see each month for each customer with how many backups were taken for each VM. And you can see, of course, the subscription status and the number of total VMs which are being backed up. Again, since we're on a clean installation here, it's all going to be blank, but you can configure usage details and invoices to be sent out on a monthly basis. Now again, when we're talking invoices here, it's the invoice from Altaro to the MSP which is going to be generated. It is not going to be sending anything to your customers. That is entirely up to the MSP to run the billing from them to the customer. So, sign-up process. Really simple. Your next step, if you haven't already signed up for the MSP subscription program, you can do so at this link here. Of course, we'll be sending out the slides to you right after this webinar. Or you can just contact sales@altaro.com or your distributor if you work through a distributor. Essentially, either one of these will be able to give you a 30-day trial of the MSP, of the subscription program, so you can go ahead and try it out free of charge for 30 days, and then feel free to continue to use it afterwards. Pricing is really simple, so we're looking at $5 or €4.50 per VM per month, and that is complete access to all features of Altaro VM Backup, completely the highest edition of the product, so the Unlimited Plus edition, with options for Azure, deduplication, offsite copies, etc., etc. The minimum is just 10 VMs per month. So literally, if you have any more than 10 VMs per month, you can immediately start to be charged on this $5 per VM per month. If you have less than 10 VMs, then you're still going to be billed on a monthly basis for that 10 VMs. This is, of course, after your 30-day trial. That also includes full access to support. Those of you who know Altaro or who have dealt with us before, you know we really push for a fantastic support experience, and we're proud to say that we have some really great numbers to push that and to back it up. We have a response time of under 30 seconds on both live chat and phone calls, and email responses are about 1 hour. On top of that, the customer satisfaction is off the charts. We really push for a great service here, so you're not just getting access to a great product, but a really fantastic team supporting it as well. So again, if you haven't contacted us, or you're having any issues and you don't know what to do, go ahead, give us a call, use live chat. I assure you that you'll have a great experience there. Okay, so this brings us to the Q&A section. I see we do already have some questions in the questions panel of GoToWebinar, so I'm going to just take a moment to go ahead and start to read through those and answer them as we go along. If you do have any further questions at this stage, please go ahead and start to post them there, and I'll get to them as we go along. Okay, so we have a first question here from Lloyd asking if we have any timescales for when CMC will be able to report on the backup size used of each of your customers. Yes, absolutely, Lloyd. This is something we're already working on, and you should see that in Q1 of 2018. Essentially, you're going to be able to run reports of the offsite usage and local backup usage of each of your customers, and you're going to be able to generate a report for billing purposes as well. The idea, of course, behind this, for anyone who's not in the same page, then you would obviously want to charge your customers on a per gigabyte or per terabyte of data when they're actually storing their data on your data center or in Azure. If you are using Azure, then you already have the option to run storage reports from Azure itself. So most of our MSPs who are using Azure, they already have this built into the product, into Azure itself. So you can go ahead and use those storage reports at the end of the day for each of your customers. So I have a question here from Juan Carlos asking if we're going to be supporting Xen Server anytime soon. At the moment, I'm afraid the answer is no. VMware and Hyper-V are the only hypervisors which we support, and we do not have plans for that to change within the next couple of months. So no, Xen Server is not really on the roadmap at this stage, I'm afraid. Okay, well, the next question here is from David, asking if we have the option to do single file restore or folder restore from Azure Backup. Essentially, this is also a feature that we're working on, David. It's the next step in Azure is, of course, going to be granular restores, both file level and, of course, Exchange level, and that's going to be coming again in probably Q1 or Q2 next year, and we should see that coming very soon. A question here from Chris asking about the option to back up physical servers. This has been a question that's asked a few times. The answer, I'm afraid, is still no. We are focused entirely on virtual machine backups at this stage, Chris. Okay, are there any further questions at this stage? Okay, just a quick note to Tom. I do see a question here, and our team are going to be dealing with it directly with you. We're going to be sending you an email directly. A question here from Chris asking about the offsite health monitor option. This is something we can help you out with through support. I'll be able to get my team to reach out to you there, Chris, about that. Or if you want, you can just pop up a live chat option either within the product or on our website. Go ahead and ask the team, and we'll be able to give you the exact steps to get the health monitor running on your offsite. Thanks. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any further questions at this point. So I want to go ahead and say thanks to everyone who joined today. This is the first targeted webinar for MSPs. So hopefully we will be running a few more of these. I do want to leave you with these contact details. If you do have any further questions or feedback about the webinars or even about the product or the roadmap of the product, please go ahead and send us your feedback. We are completely transparent, as you can see, and we do appreciate any kind of feedback or any kind of questions that you want to go ahead and send over. So we can go ahead and wrap up. I will be sending a copy of these slides over to you guys after the webinar. And thank you again for joining, and I hope you found the information today useful. Have a nice day.